Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my series on haunted places in the U.S. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and ways to listen and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. There are many ways to support the show. You can share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platforms. You can also sign up for the Patreon feed and get all the extra content there for as little as $1 a month. And you can also check out the merchandise store and get all kinds of shirts and other items there with designs made by friends of the show. Please follow friends of the show, Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co-host of this show on Saturdays whenever possible. And Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows as well as my own 24/7 online for free. And also with the series, as I always say, with any of these locations I talk about, please do your own research to find out if and when it is okay to visit these locations, and uh, and also just to get pictures of them uh, and find out more about them as you go. Because I never recommend trespassing for any reason, and so what I do is I have summaries written up about each of these locations, and I include a couple of links for each location in the episode description. So we are on our last location I'm going to cover for the state of Kentucky, and then we'll be moving on to Louisiana. So this last location in Kentucky is in Franklin. This is the Octagon Hall. This is an 8-sided historic home built between 1847 and 1859 by Andrew Jackson Caldwell. The house is unique. There we go. In design, inspired by the octagon shape popularized in the 1850s for and ventilation and wind resistance, though the family said it was chosen simply for its distinctiveness. During the Civil War, it served as a hospital and sanctuary for both Confederate and Union soldiers. The home has a deep Civil War history, with thousands of Confederate troops camping on its grounds before retreating and later being occupied by Union forces. The house and grounds include a small cemetery with graves of unknown soldiers and a slave cemetery, adding to its historical significance. After the war, the home remained a residence and passed through different owners, becoming a museum in 2001, operated by the Octagon Hall Foundation. Octagon Hall has gained a reputation as one of the most haunted places in the southern United States. Reports of ghostly soldiers from both sides of the Civil War there, slaves, and members of the Caldwell family are common. Paranormal investigations have recorded unusual phenomena such as ghostly apparitions and voices, with some claims linked to tragic events like the alleged death of a young girl whose dress supposedly caught fire, a story that remains uh, historically ambiguous. The museum regularly hosts ghost hunts, excuse me, and paranormal tours, and has been featured on several paranormal TV shows. So that's the end of that one. That was a fairly quick one there. And we can get on to the state of Louisiana. So, and we'll be starting that with, let's see here, the St. Louis Cemetery, number one, in New Orleans, or New Orleans. I always forgot to say that. Um, I've heard about this location, or at least of the cemeteries in New Orleans uh, as well. So, as being active for the paranormal. So this is the city's oldest burial ground and a renowned site for paranormal activity, blending rich history with legends of haunting that have endured for centuries. Historical background. The cemetery was established in 1789 following the devastating fire of 1788 and replaced the previous St. Peter Cemetery due to overcrowding and concerns about sanitation. Located just outside the original city limits, near the French Quarter, St. Louis Cemetery Number 1 was designed according to Spanish colonial policies, reflecting Mediterranean burial traditions with uh, above ground tombs that became necessary due to New Orleans' high water table. Over time, the site was organized by religion and race, with the earliest plots laid out haphazardly, contributing to its maze-like layout. The cemetery houses influential city figures, including the excuse me, the Creole pioneer Etienne de Boer. Not sure if I'm saying that right, or Boer. I'm not sure. Um, chess prodigy Paul Morphy and Bernard de Marigny, as well as infamous residents like Marie Laveau, the legendary Voodoo Queen. Haunted reputation and paranormal phenomena. St. Louis Cemetery Number 1 is widely considered one of the most haunted cemeteries in the United States, hosting more than 100,000 burials in just a single block. Reports of ghostly apparitions, strange lights, disembodied voices, and mysterious orbs fill its history, with tales dating back over 200 years. Visitors describe feeling an inexplicable presence, especially after dusk, and often see shadowy figures among the tombstones. I'm sorry about among the tombs, or hear unexplained sounds echoing in the labyrinthine paths. Some of the cemetery's best known spirits include Marie Laveau. The Voodoo Queen is said to walk among her followers, with legends claiming her presence can be summoned by marking triple X's on her tomb and performing a ritual. Believers leave offerings and hope her spirit will grant wishes. Skeptics and disrespectful visitors have reported being scratched, pushed, or even thrown to the ground by her apparition. It's pretty violent. Not saying anyone deserves that, but I'm wondering how many skeptics were turned into believers after all that, if that happened. Anyway, Henry, this is going over the spirits seen there. Henry Vines, I'm not sure, Vignes. This blue-eyed sailor lost his tomb through betrayal and is seen wandering the cemetery in search of his lost resting place. sometimes asking visitors for help or a place to rest. Another one is Alphonse, a friendly ghost who greets visitors, moves grave flowers to his tomb. Wow, I can't talk. And sometimes asks to be taken home. Uh, Jimmy, a spectral figure who requests flowers be placed on his wife's grave. Civil War soldiers and yellow fever victims are also reported to appear, with many spirits believed to be anonymous wandering in search of solace. Contemporary preservation and access. Due to persistent vandalism and safety concerns, the cemetery is only accessible through guided tours as of 2015, helping to preserve the site and share its historic and haunted legacy with visitors. The cemetery's mystical atmosphere and tales of hauntings have inspired novels, documentaries, and ghost tours, cementing its role as a centerpiece of New Orleans supernatural folklore. So there we have that one. Uh, and I've heard of that location as well through different paranormal podcasts and true story TV shows and things like that. So I'm not surprised with all the reports there. So next we have a place I've talked about before. I think I may have even done a show on it. I can't remember now. It's been a little while. Maybe I just talked about it. Um, because of the apparitions there, or at least one of them. But this is the Myrtle's Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana. I'll read the summary here, and I'll talk a little bit about why this place fascinates me so much. The Myrtle's Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana, is both a historical landmark and a renowned center of American ghost lore, often considered one of the most haunted houses in the United States. Historical background. The plantation was built in 1796 by General David Bradford, nicknamed Whiskey Dave for his role in the Whiskey Rebellion, before he fled to Louisiana for refuge. Originally called Laurel Grove, the plantation was renamed the Myrtles by uh, Ruffin, Ruffin, not sure if that's right, Sterling, who acquired it in 1834 and expanded the property. The plantation changed hands several times with notable owners, including the the Bradford, Woodruff, and Sterling families. Many of its residents suffered personal tragedies, such as deaths from yellow fever. During the Civil War and into later years, the household saw robberies, turmoil, and the mysterious murder of William Winter, who was reportedly shot from the front porch in 1871. Hauntings and paranormal claims. The plantation's haunted reputation has persisted for decades and is steeped in legend, particularly the story of Chloe, a supposed enslaved woman. Chloe, allegedly owned by the Woodruff family, was said to have poisoned members of the household, leading to her own execution by hanging. The legend claims Chloe's ghost can be seen wearing a green turban. Modern historical research, however, suggests this tale is folklore. There are no historical records confirming a slave named Chloe at the plantation, and the Woodruff family deaths were due to yellow fever, not poisoning. Other hauntings attributed to the Myrtles include apparitions, footsteps, handprints and mirrors, mysterious smells, and vanishing objects. The property is said to be the site of up to 10 murders, but only the shooting of William Winter is historically documented. The Myrtle's haunted reputation was further popularized in the late 20th century, especially after Marjorie Munson purchased the home in the 1950s and reported ghostly encounters, later amplified when the plantation was turned into a bed and breakfast in the 1970s. Collected lore and modern reception. The Myrtles has attracted paranormal investigators, television crews, and curious tourists featured on shows like Unsolved Mysteries and Ghost Hunters. Its haunted history is a blend of recorded facts, family tragedies, local folklore, and subsequent ghost tourism efforts, making it a captivating destination for those intrigued by the supernatural. So that's the end of that summary, and uh, it kind of goes into what I was talking about. And yeah, Dawn, funny enough, you put that in the chat here. I'll mention this in a second. But it's the that has to do with the next location on my little list here. But the fascinating thing about the Myrtles is, as that summary said, there's this legend about this woman named Chloe who was apparently killed on the property, and her ghost is seen, even though there's no historical evidence for this whole story or for this woman. But the fascinating thing to me about that, as I always say when this location comes up, is people have claimed to have seen a woman that matches the description with a turban and everything of Chloe. And there was even a picture that was captured when the owners are taking pictures for insurance purposes, where a woman that appears possibly similar to an apparition that appears that is similar to this description of Chloe. Um, this apparition of her appears in this picture. So, to me, this is all possibly evidence of a type of a thought form. In other words, this legend has been around for enough time, so many years, I guess, possibly decades now, to where either an entity has taken on that form on its own, basically to match what people are describing, which I guess is not technically a thought form, but so either it is some kind of other consciousness that has taken on that form of what Chloe's supposed to look like according to legend, or it is literally the thoughts and emotions and focus of all this energy and thought on this figure who may not have existed before, but now exists because of all that attention, because of all that focus. And people are seeing this figure. And that to me is one of the most fascinating parts of the paranormal, where you have these places all around the world where, now, yes, some cases there are apparitions of people that there are historical records of. But then there's plenty of other cases where people there's this folklore regarding any given location about how this one person died, but there's no historical evidence of it, and yet an apparition matching the description of the person in the legend or the folklore is seen by people. And a lot of times I just wonder how often is all the energy and focus and intent and just all that energy over all that time slowly creating thought forms that match the legends. So, really fascinating. But going back to the chat here, and we'll probably end with this one because we only have a few minutes left here. But Dawn in the chat says Madame LaLaurie is buried in that cemetery too, and that's the St. Louis, I believe. It's that cemetery we talked about in the beginning of the show here. But the next location I have to cover here is the LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans. And just for anyone that listens to these shows that is not part of Discord, I did not put these locations into the chat ahead of time. So funny little coincidence or synchronicity there. Anyway, the LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans, Louisiana, is widely regarded as one of the most infamous haunted houses in the city due to its dark history and persistent tales of paranormal activity. Also, I'm pretty sure this is one of those places where you cannot visit personally, at least inside the building. Anyway, historical background. Constructed in 1832, it gives an address here, but I'm not going to give that. The mansion was home to Madame Delphine LaLaurie and her third husband, Dr. Louis LaLaurie. The couple was known for hosting extravagant social gatherings within the elite circles of New Orleans society. However, beneath this veneer of gentility, sinister rumors circulated regarding Delphine's brutal treatment of the people she enslaved. These suspicions exploded into public horror in April of 1834. A fire broke out at the mansion, allegedly started by a desperate enslaved cook. When firefighters responded, they uncovered appalling scenes in the attic. At least 7 enslaved individuals were found in terrible conditions. I'm not going to go into all that, and kept in inhumane conditions. Some reports from the period mention evidence of cruel experiments, and again, other darker details we don't need to get into. News of these atrocities triggered instant outrage, and a mob soon ransacked and partially destroyed the house, while Madame LaLaurie fled to Paris, where she lived in obscurity until her death. Huh. So, I wonder what that means for. I don't know. Huh. Reports of haunting. The LaLaurie Mansion's reputation for horror has endured, celebrated by locals. Celebrated is the right word. By locals and ghost tours as the most haunted house in New Orleans. The story of cruelty. The stories of cruelty have led many to believe that the spirits of the abused and those who perished there linger in the mansion. Common paranormal claims include apparitions appearing in upper windows or flitting about the halls. Yeah, it's private property now. Yep, that's right. I forgot. Thank you, Dawn. Unexplained cold spots, sudden drops in temperature, and feelings of oppressive atmosphere. Disembodied screams, moaning, and the rattling of chains echoing through the night. Unpleasant odors, and there's more here, but we are out of time. So just a terrible history with a terrible activity. But thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.